Hello and welcome to the Wellness Universe Lounge. My name is Anna Pereira. I'm the founder of the Wellness Universe, and you are here on our learning platform. We have some really great shows, sessions, interview series, workshops, classes for you here held by the members of the Wellness Universe, as well as the Wellness Universe. Myself representing some of the shows and programs here. And what we really aim to do and strive for is to help you live your best life. We love to introduce you to people and programs and products and services through the members of the Wellness Universe who are coaches, therapists, doctors, healers who help you to live your best life. This is a new program I started up a couple weeks ago. It's called Self-Care True Stories, inspired by our book collection, our book series, our guide, the Wellness Universe Guide to Complete Self-Care. We have 2 books out so far, and we have Stress Relief and Happiness, Tools for Stress Relief and Tools for Happiness. We're working on our 3rd one. And I just want to introduce you today to David. He's actually one of our international best-selling authors in our book series. And today's session, we're going to be talking about healing parent wounds with David McLeod. Welcome, David. So happy to have you here.
Oh, thank you, Anna. I'm delighted to be here. It's always fun sharing space with you. You know that.
So David and I have become very good friends over the course of the last few years and met in person a couple times at Soul Retreat, our wellness retreat, and doing it again this October in Boone, North Carolina. And I just want to say, David, it's just been such a blessing to get to know you for all that you are and all that you do. And I just want to briefly introduce you with your professional bio, if you will. I'm just going to read that off, and then whatever I missed or you care to share afterwards, please add to this. So David is a fighter pilot, software engineer, mentor, aerobics instructor, poet, janitor, lifeguard, musician, radio DJ, graphics designer, father, student, teacher, photographer, ordained minister, yogi. These roles and many others add up to a lot of life experience, all of which David McLeod brings to bear in his work as a transformational speaker, life mastery coach, experiential facilitator, and writer storyteller. As a certified master life coach with a PhD in holistic life coaching and a DD in spiritual counseling, David shares his wisdom, insights, personal lessons, and expertise in countless ways that help people all over the world to become true masters of their lives. And I want to just hold up your book for a minute, David. And this is his self-authored book, A Life to Die For. So I just wanted to hold that up. So David, what did I miss in that beautiful intro of yours?
Wow, I don't know who you were talking about. I'd like to meet that guy. That's quite a bio. To be clear, I am not a fighter pilot now. I was in an earlier part of my life. And it's the same thing with many of those other roles. I've taken those on at different times in my life in order to satisfy certain interests and urges and stuff. The fighter pilot one was definitely one of the most interesting. And if people want to find out more about that, you can, in our new book, the Wellness Universe Guide to Complete Self-Care, 25 Tools to Achieve Anything. I talk about that process and how I became a fighter pilot. So that's something that you can read and learn about. And I mean, we all have roles, Anna. We all have roles. And it's an interesting point to make, and I just want to remind people of that. The key word there is have. We have the roles. And yet very often we speak about ourselves as if we are the roles. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of where my main teaching comes from, is learning that while I do a lot of things, everything that I do ultimately is a reflection of who I really am at the core, at the essence, at the center of my being. And those things that I do not define me, but they show little data points of qualities and characteristics that I have or that I have had in my life. That's kind of how I look at it.
I love that, David, and I want to thank you for bringing that into our awareness, because a lot of us sometimes are stuck in our story because we've been assigned a role or a title that we really never owned, as we took ownership of it, but it was placed on us. And a lot of the things that have happened to us in our lives sometimes influence how we think of ourselves. And I want to let everyone here know, and thank you so much for joining us, our live audience members, that we don't have to be defined by what had happened to us or what role we've been assigned or what title has been placed on us. Yet we can use those experiences to really uplift us and elevate us, create the resilience that takes us and propels us forward into life. Now, David, you have a really transformational story that you would like to share with us today, because my whole purpose of this series, Self-Care True Stories, is to really get to know the man or the woman behind the practice, because we have such amazing resources at the Wellness Universe to help personal growth and development and emotional well-being and mental well-being. But often we don't get to hear your story. Why are you so personally invested in making the world a better place? And it's typically from the challenges that we've overcome. I've talked about bullying. I've talked about not having a nurturing, relationship with my father. I've talked about things in the past, but I really like to give this opportunity for you to share what has happened to you. And also after we're done, we'll have a little dialogue, and then you'll be able to also share an actionable self-care tip that anyone could take with them on their journey to personal growth. So David, please share with me what story you have.
What story I have, and thank you for asking it that way, because it is a story that I have. I certainly lived my story. I certainly went through all the events that occurred in my life. And all of them contributed to an understanding of something that I have now found to be so vitally important, and that is for each of us to know the truth of who we really are. Not the roles, not the made-up ideas that we have, but the actual truth of who we really are. And that is my passion now. Now, why is that? Well, I'll tell you what happened. It was probably in 1992. When I suddenly came to the huge awareness that I was a really angry and resentful person. There was a situation that happened with my sister shortly after my mother died in 1992, where she said something to me, my sister. She was unhappy with the fact that I wasn't grieving in the way that she considered to be appropriate, and she made a comment to that effect. And I split. I mean, I just blew up, and I had her practically up against the wall with my hand around her throat. And I all of a sudden was asking myself, how did I get here? How did this happen? What am I doing here? Thankfully, my higher self spoke up and said, that's enough. Just release, just let go. Well, after that, things started really churning in my life. I mean, I ended up walking around the neighborhood and just shaking my head saying, how did that happen? I know that I've got these feelings and this stuff that's going on, but why did I break apart like that? Why did I just lose it? That doesn't seem like me. And so it took me several years after that happened in 1995. I finally realized that I wasn't going to get the help I needed where I lived up in Canada, up in Edmonton, Alberta. So I ended up divorcing my wife, leaving my PhD program in the University of Alberta, and then heading off to Silicon Valley to take a job as a software engineer. And when I got down to Silicon Valley, I had no idea, by the way, why Silicon Valley, except there's where the jobs were. That was the only reason in my conscious mind that I was going. But once I got there, all of a sudden I was exposed to all kinds of people, teachers, gurus, workshop trainers, you name it. I was exposed to all these people with all kinds of different ideas, and one thing led to another, and I just started doing personal growth work. Well, in 2003, I probably did the deepest, most intense work of my life. It was called the New Warrior Training Adventure, and it was sponsored by an organization called the Mankind Project. And I'll tell you, they broke me open. All that rage and anger and stuff that was inside me just kind of poured out onto this sacred space that they had created. And I had all these men surrounding me as this was happening. And the interesting thing is, after the heavy part of it, the anger and the rage and everything started coming out, then the tears started coming. And I'll tell you, I don't think I have ever cried in my life the way I did that day. I had liquid coming out of pretty much every orifice you can imagine, and I won't go any further than that. But let's just say it was messy. And but in that moment, all of a sudden, things started opening up for me, and I began to understand. As I did even more work after that, I began to understand how I got to that place in the first place. And it's interesting because as I trace back into the past and try to understand what triggered this, what started this whole event, it turned out to be a very, very, I would say, innocent and innocuous statement that my mother made to me when I was only 3 years old. When she said to me, out of her own frustration, because I wasn't behaving the way she expected a 3-year-old to behave, she said that she had me up on this changing table up in the house, and she was just kind of had her hands around my arms. She was holding me like this. And she says, "Look, I'm your mother. You're supposed to do what I tell you to do." And I was just, huh? I was kind of like that. And then she said, "I know you better than you know yourself." And that one kind of went bang right into my heart. But I didn't realize it at the time, of course. It was just the statement that she made. And in my mind, I guess, I don't even know for sure if this is true, but as I think about it today, I imagine what was going on for me was, well, yeah, you're my mom. You certainly know me better than anybody else does. You fulfill all my needs and wants, and you take care of me, and you say you love me. I guess it must be true. You know me better than I know myself. Well, imagine what a little kid's mind is like. If mommy knows me better than I know myself, then maybe daddy knows me better than I know myself. Maybe grandma knows me better than I know myself. Maybe grandpa. Pretty soon, I had convinced myself in some very strange way that everybody knew me better than I knew myself. And I took it to the point where not only did they know me better than I knew myself, but they also knew my wants and needs better than I did. And so consequently, I basically gave myself up. I kind of abandoned my true self. And in the process of doing that, that's when the resentment and anger started, because I was able to see other people, declaring the truth of who they were. And I thought, I can't do that. I'm not allowed to do that. I had convinced myself that it was not true. And so that's what was happening. And so in 1992, to come full circle here, when my sister said to me, "What the hell is wrong with you? Mom's been dead for 3 weeks and I haven't seen you grieve yet. Why? What's wrong with you?" I exploded in my mind, because what I was thinking, I was imagining this was my mom talking to me. And not saying, not telling me how to grieve, but telling me how to be. And that's when the straw broke the camel's back, and I said, enough. No one's telling me how to be anymore. But you see, I didn't understand until I had done all the work. And so anyway, that's a long, complicated explanation for why I do the work I do now, and why I try to help people see the truth of who they really are. There is nothing in my mind that is more important. I believe that if everybody on the planet could know the truth of who they are and stop attaching to the ego mind stories of, how you're supposed to show up and all the rest of that, I think world peace would just happen like that in a blink of an eye. So that's why I do the work I do. My goal is to help people raise their awareness, the truth, their understanding, to the point where they no longer allow themselves to be controlled by the imaginary dictates of other people who really have no interest in controlling them anyway, for the most part. So,
David, I just want to say thank you for sharing that powerful story. And there's just so many layers that I just want to dig into a little bit. First of all, little did your mom know that she was planting an acorn of which a very huge oak was to grow in your life and kind of wrap around your heart and your awareness until you were able to say, uh-oh, and then you took it out.
That's right.
And you're understanding what she was saying from a 3-year-old's perspective. So even when a parent speaks to their child, do they not know, or they may not be aware of the acorns that they're planting in their children for the level of awareness and perception and understanding of which that child understands the world around them. And you took this down a rabbit hole because you're a child. That's what you thought. Right. It's like, oh, if Santa Claus is watching me, so-and-so is watching me. So this is how we think when we're children. So this is exactly how it was a normal thought process for a child to have, in my opinion, as you now explain it. And she never knew. And unfortunately, you never had an opportunity, because until fast forward, all of these things came crashing down on you and the awareness was created. Then were you able to help yourself through this? But you had no idea. And it's so sad. And this is why they say typically grandparents raise children better than the parents raise the children.
Oh, absolutely.
Because they have a different awareness. And this is why I love why you do what you do, because you help people to be on their journey of awareness and self-discovery, and through shadow work and all the other modalities that you help people to dig into and excavate what has gone on, for them to create the awareness. And that's really where the healing lies, is within the awareness. It's not within the modality. It's not within the methods. It's not in any of that, because you could do a bunch of different things, from physical to mental to spiritual practices, but it's creating that awareness. And it's like, where did this all come from? So that, number one, I think is, I'm so sorry that you waited so long to experience that. Like, I feel so bad, because you're just such a great person. And I just personally, wish that you had arrived at that sooner, because you have so much greatness to offer everyone. And it almost makes me want to it almost makes you really want to cry, because it's sad that it took that long for you to get that awareness, And this is our goal here, is to try to get everyone to come to that awareness and help heal them.
Yeah. And it's like the story, you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink. When the horse is ready to drink, he'll drink, or she'll drink. That's the way it goes. The other thing I want to say is, think about this. When I was 3 years old, that means my mother was probably in her early 20s. She was barely an adult herself. She was still a child. She was doing the best she could with the tools that she had available, and she probably had a lot less tools than I did. But she wasn't doing anything maliciously. She was doing what she thought was the right thing in order to keep her child behaving in an appropriate way in the world. So I will admit that at some point I did have a lot of anger and rage towards my mother. But now that I've done all this work, I can now go back and I can see her for the amazing, beautiful, wonderful person that she really was. And I can understand that she was coming from a place of love. And in fact, it's helped me to realize that almost everybody, no matter what they do, no matter how it may look to us on the outside, they're operating from a motivation that's designed to either give or receive love, even if it looks totally dysfunctional. That's what I believe. And so the thing is to understand that maybe their methods don't work, and we can teach them new methods for getting the love or sharing the love that they want to experience. But part of that has to do with healing their own wounds. So even though my mom did what she did, it was I who made a choice, even as only 3 years old, to accept the truth of her statement and to live according to that truth for the next almost 40 years. And as to the time, well, as I said, it was the time that I needed to maybe get the, get the rivers flowing or something. I had to reach a certain point before I was going to be able to see the truth. And that was the point that I got to, I guess.
Your wisdom and your experience is so appreciated, and I'm sure that many of us in the audience obviously were called to hear your story, because either they know who you are, or they don't know you and they wanted to be introduced, because they also have been hurt by their parents in some way, shape, or form, and they want to see what kind of healing can they experience through this conversation. I would love to hear any comments from anyone who's with us live, if you want to share any comments with us. But David, let's move on to your tip, and then after your tip, we'll discuss a couple of different ways that you help people on their way, because to healing and to a transformed and transcended way of being, to experience their best life. So in about like 2 or 3 minutes, do you have something that you can give to us so we can walk away with that can help us to live a better life?
Well, I guess the one thing that I would offer is what we're doing here today. It's an interview. It's like we're two completely separate people. But what I'd like to offer is, what if you were to take the time and interview parts of yourself? Interview those aspects of yourself that maybe for whatever reason you don't like, or you try to hide, or you try to push them aside because you think that they may be bad or inappropriate or unacceptable, or whatever the story might be. What would happen if you could imagine, say, I'm here, I am the person right here, and I imagine Anna over there is the dark part of me that keeps showing up in a way that I don't like. I might call that part arrogance. The word arrogance comes up a lot for me because it seems to be one of my personal shadows. But let's say I were to take that part of myself and put it into a chair opposite me and just start talking, imagining that arrogance is a real person. And I just start asking questions and try and get to know it and befriend it a little bit, the way Anna is asking questions today. And I might ask something like, so how long have you been around? When did you first show up in David's life? And I'll refer to myself in the third person. And the arrogance might respond, well, I've been around probably since, but he won't call himself arrogance, by the way. He'll call himself something else, like protector or something like that. He'll give himself a name like that. And he'll say, yeah, I started showing up around, I don't know, two years old or something. David was doing something and he needed to be kind of guided and protected. And so I was there for that. I said, oh, so you're trying to protect him. You're trying to keep him safe. Yeah, that's what I do. And I said, oh, and when David is physically safe, what do you get for yourself that you really want? And so now this is where it starts to get a little deeper. That part says something like, well, I guess I get to know that I'm really good at keeping people safe. And or something along that line. You don't know what it's going to say. I'm just kind of riffing here off the top of my head. But you see, what happens is each time you get an answer, you take it to the next level and you say, when you understand that you know that you are good at keeping people safe, what do you get for yourself that you really want? And as you take this deeper and deeper and deeper, what you discover is this part of yourself is actually trying to give or receive love. That's what boils down to. Now, they may not use the words giving or receiving love, but that's what it'll come down to at the long run. And if you can then become friends with that part and say, wow, I really appreciate that you are trying to create love in my life. That is such a wonderful thing to be doing. And I really want to thank you for all of that. And I'm an adult now. I don't need the kind of protection that I needed when I was 2 or 3 years old. I am capable of handling this now. I want you here as a partner, but I don't want you taking over my life anymore. I want to have control of my own life. Are you willing to let me do that? So you create an agreement with this part of yourself. I'm kind of really simplifying it here to keep it short, but that's basically, in a nutshell, what I call the shadow interview. And it's a powerful, powerful piece that anyone can do. If you like, you can sit in front of a mirror and do it and see both parts of yourself. You can feel yourself asking the questions, and you can see your reflection answering them. It's a powerful technique. I encourage you to try it. See what happens.
Well, I don't know one instance that comes out bad from expressing compassion for something that causes pain or someone that is hurt. And I think that you're really expressing compassion and understanding for your shadow parts that can be perceived as something that doesn't serve you anymore. And I think that this is a beautiful practice, David. Thank you for bringing it up.
Oh yeah, well, you're welcome. It's something that I've done a lot of, and if you have the benefit of knowing other people who are doing this kind of work, then you can pair up with them or create a support group and have people facilitate each other in this process. That is even more powerful. Then I don't have to, imagine myself jumping back and forth into two different aspects. I can just simply sit in the truth of my shadow and let someone else ask me those questions. It's very powerful.
I love it. Would anyone in the audience like to comment on that or have any questions for David? So David, we have about 5 minutes left. I wanted to share your link to your profile, and through this profile, people connect with you in a myriad of ways. This is your Wellness Universe profile, and you're welcome. So anyone could connect with you there and also get all of your social media pages, your websites, and everything is located on through that page. Amy G says, David, did your sister forgive you? Did she feel compassionate for your shadow? That's a great question.
Excellent question. I can't say that my sister has forgiven me. It is not up to me to ask that. She's never said those words to me, but she has. We've had a kind of let's say an acquaintance style relationship for years. It's never been super close. Even before that event, it wasn't that super close. But now I'd say there's a little bit of a strain there. What's more important, I think, is for me to forgive myself. And because ultimately forgiveness is about releasing our attachment to any desire for revenge or getting even or any of that stuff, and liberating ourselves from that. If she does forgive me, she's doing it mostly for her, not for me. And so I definitely encourage her to do that. And I can't say for sure whether she has or has not, because she hasn't spoken to me about it.
Thank you for sharing that, David. Anything else? I see Amy is typing still. If anyone else has a comment or a question for David, in the meantime, as we have just a few minutes left, David, share how you do share your service, your support, and your help for those to transform.
Well, because of what's happened with COVID, I've kind of transitioned a little bit. I do a lot of online stuff. I first of all, I have my Life Mastery TV program, which I do twice a month. I interview guests who have all kinds of different offerings. And we have a really interesting live conversations, kind of like this one. And, Anna, you've been on the show a couple of times.
I have. It's a great show.
Yeah. I also have a podcast called Life Mastery Wisdom, in which I do that once every 2 weeks. I got to, get my timing right. And that is just a 15-minute or so share of some aspect of life mastery that's available on Apple iTunes, and it's also available on my website at lifemasterywisdom.com. The other things I do, I work with people directly, one-on-one. My really big love is to do group work with people, group coaching. Because I find that one-on-one coaching is very inspiring and uplifting in the right context. But group coaching, I find, it kind of magnifies it by much more than the number of people in the group. And so I love doing that. Those are kinds of some of the things that I do.
Thank you, David. Thank you. And so Amy also says, it's so hard when the rest of the world doesn't have compassion, to have compassion for ourselves. Thank you for sharing your honest story that even when awakened, things aren't perfect. Well
Exactly.
said, Amy.
Yep, that's right.
Well
if
said.
we wait for perfection, we're going to be waiting a long time. Unless,
for sure,
from the spiritual side of things, we can accept what is right now as perfect. Even the things that don't seem so great.
Absolutely, David. And I just want to say thank you so much for sharing all of that. And I want to mention also you're going to be at Soul Treat. Jenny, can you grab the link for Soul Treat and put it in the chat? David has really done such a great job in the last two retreats and really left the audience with some powerful awakenings and shifts. So I can't wait to have you back again. And also getting to know you on a more casual and personal level that, Retreat sets up that dynamic for us. Thank you, Jenny. And was there any final thoughts that you'd like to share, David, after this half hour together?
I guess the one thing that I would like people to take away from this is there's nothing more important than knowing the truth of who you really are. And while you may imagine that you already know yourself pretty well, my guess is with work, with deep, loving, introspective work, you can discover that you're far more amazing and beautiful and magnificent than you ever thought possible. What I like to tell people is you are a divine, magnificent, unlimited spiritual being of light and love, and you just happen to be sharing this physical human experience. So think of it that way, and if you can do that and bring that into every aspect of your life, you're going to start seeing blossoms all over the place. It just makes a huge difference.
Oh God, David, what you just said totally landed in my soul. And you know what? And then that's a whole nother journey. It's like getting off on an exit to another highway and going down another highway to explore self-love. So then you can then go down that, because the awareness and cracking open and, bringing into your, your self-development journey, what you need to do in order to, get past this now that you realized. But now to act in self-love, to truly heal and start evolving. Gosh, it's so many layers, right? For us to become who we were always meant to be. It's almost like we come perfect to the world and then we totally unravel. And then we got to kind of come back to who we were meant to be.
Yep. It's a beautiful, I like the way you did that, come together and then kind of come apart. It's a wave, it's a breathing process. That's kind of what it is. It's expansion and contraction all happening simultaneously. It's beautiful.
Yeah. Thank you. Oh, so I think that Jenny had a little hiccup with, I think she got disconnected. She probably had a little Wi-Fi issue. Let me see if I can grab the link for Soul Retreat. And this is our retreat, everyone. And if you'd like to join us, please check it out. And with that, I want to say, David, thank you so much for joining us. And it's such a blessing and an honor to have you in my life as a friend, as a member of the Wellness Universe, as a resource, as a trusted resource I could point people to go and get that shadow work done with. As a speaker, as an author in our series of books, I just thank you for being in my life, David. And thank you so much for being here with us all today.
Oh, well, thank you, Anna. It's my honor to be part of the family.
Amen to that. Thank you, everyone who's joined us live. And if you're watching the recording, thank you so much. And we hope you have a really blessed day. We do this every Thursday, 11 a.m. EST, interviewing a different guest of the Wellness Universe who comes with inspiration, support, and healing for your highest and greatest good. And we'll see you next time on Self-Care True Stories with the next guest.
Bye-bye.